Yes, good. Okay, let's go, guys. So enough about me. That's all. You know that I'm a squirrel, obviously, because all of the tech issues that started at 7:30. Anyway, anyway, so enough about me. This is my page. If you want to join it, I have tips and tricks about Photoshop, and my goal is to start doing little videos on it, and I have classes all the time. My next class I'm planning is probably going to be in June sometime. So if you join the group, you will see where and when I am speaking, and if you want to join. If that wasn't fun enough for you to see me figure out how to join this new, not Zoom program. Anyway, all right. So let's start at the beginning, Chris, at the way boring stuff. This is the way boring stuff, you guys. I'm going to go over the tools a little bit because you need to understand. It is. You need to know what you're doing because you can't just jump in because you need to know what you're doing with it. So the basics are you have a brush tool, you have a mixer brush tool, and I'm getting Facebook things. I hope you're not seeing that. You're totally seeing that. It's like everybody in my face, like, don't join my group until after because it's telling me you're joining. Okay. Um, brush tool, the mixer brush tool, and your smudge tool are the three tools that you need in your toolbar to in order to paint. If you don't see them, go to your edit toolbar and you can drag them over and separate them because the mixer brush is nestled under your brush tool, but you need it separated so that you can access it quickly without having to double click. All right. So get those. If you have trouble doing that, message me and I'll send you the instructions on how to do that. Okay. I'm going to go over brushes, blend modes, the mixer brushes, and the smudge brush. That's what we're going to cover. And I'm going to flip through these slides quickly. You can go back and study them a little closer so I can do a little bit of demo for you. First question is where do you get your brushes? So your brushes are, when you click on I hope my Photoshop is still working after all that craziness. Hold on. Yes, it is. Okay, good. Yay. I can't move my brush panel though, but that's okay. Okay, so to get more brushes, you're going to click on this little gear at the top of your brush panel, and it will direct you to the Adobe site. If you have CC, all of the brushes are free, and Kyle Weber is the maker of the brushes. He has hundreds and hundreds of brushes. Your legacy brushes are free, and those are your basic brushes, your soft round with a point, and your soft round and your hard round with a point. And I'm going to talk fast just because this is the boring stuff. You can go back and listen to it. Right, Chris? We figured that out so they can go back. Wonderful. I hope that start wasn't recorded. Okay. Oh, please do, Chris. Okay. So those are your basic brushes. And then you'll notice that I have hundreds. You can organize your brushes into groups. Like I have this folder right here, which is Karen's favorites. These are my general. So you can put the ones that you use in here. So my one tip to you is don't get lost in all these brushes. You could do a painting with 3 brushes. You can do the entire thing with the soft round if you wanted. So don't get caught up in this. If you want to play, open up the brushes and play. But note that not all brushes are the same. So when you click on your brushes, you will notice that some of them will have these little icons on them. So if it has just a brush, that is a Yeti. Why are you emailing me now? I know you're watching. He did. So this one is just designated as a brush tool. So if it has this little icon next to it, it means that it is only a brush tool. It will not mix without altering the brush. This one is a mixer tool. You can tell because it has a little paint drop on it. And yes, it is shaped like a squirrel because the squirrel is my spirit animal. Even though some of these technical issues were joint, I am a squirrel. Okay. Second part was my fault, but that's okay, Chris. So this one is just a mixer brush, this little squirrel, and it started off as a joke. But if I am on this on this brush, you'll notice that it will blend and mush and blend up. I use this one to make backgrounds, but it will not just be a stamp squirrel. It will only mix based on this little icon right here. Okay. So I have a whole series of brushes made from squirrels. This one is the tail of a squirrel, and it can be a brush, it can be a mixer, and it can be a smudge. And I like it because it's not just a soft round. So pay attention to these little icons, you guys. This one is only a smudge. See how it only has the little pointer finger? This one is a mixer brush, but it mixes with color. So it's like a color replacement thing. These are Kyle's brushes. So pay attention to that. So if you're trying to mix and you're just painting, it's because you're on the wrong type of brush. So check your brushes. Okay. All right. The brush tool does what it says. It puts down color, paints custom brush strokes. So when you're on the brush setting, you'll notice that every time I go to the brushes, which is, can you see this little panel, Chris? This is the brush right here. Yep. When I click this brush right here, right up here, this is going to tell you all of the brushes. So the last brush you used will stay highlighted up here. So that's the first thing you need to know about the panel. The other thing is it has modes. So when you look at the modes, this is your for the majority of the time, you're going to be on normal if you're just putting down paint. If you're trying to add a shadow or dimension, you're going to be in this section right here. I use multiply most of the time. I will use color burn on birds because it has like an iridescent. It's a more intense color when you do color burn. This section will lighten, just like it says at the top. I use screen a lot, and that adds highlights to your painting, because when you start painting and mixing, you need to go back with your brush tool and add in dimensions with your highlights and shadows. So you're going to go and read this. The other one that I use a lot, this one does midtones, your overlays. I never ever use this section. And this section right here does your hue, saturation, and color. So if you put it on color, you can actually change the color of like a white teacup, and you want to make the white teacup pink or purple or blue or black or whatever you want to change it to. Color pick, put it on the color mode, and then paint. And you can also do like a soft wash. So these little squiggles will show you it was a basic blue. This is what normal does. This is what multiply does. This is what screen does, overlay, and color mode. So those are your modes. They work the same as your global modes that would be in your layers palette over here, but they work strictly with your brush. So those you're going to use a lot. I use those with every single painting. Okay. The other thing on the brushes that the only other thing you need to know is opacity and flow. So we all know what opacity is. Flow is almost the same thing, but you'll notice that if your opacity is 100% and 100% flow, it's an opaque color. If you are 20% opacity and 100% flow, it's a lower opacity. If it's 100% opacity and 20% flow, which is the opposite, it's the same color. So don't let all of this confuse you. Flow is just the rate of the pigment that comes out of your stylist. What I would suggest you do is to keep your flow at 100%, or how the brush was made. I normally keep it at 100%, and I alter the opacity. So you can go back and read that, but don't worry so much about the flow. Most of them are on 100%. Okay, moving on. Oh, we did that already. Brushes, mixer brush. Your mixer brush, when you click the mixer brush tool, which has the little paint daub on it, you'll notice that your panel changes again. How I learned how to paint was having this on a transparent layer. This is your color, your paint wheel, your paint daub or whatever. You can change it. You can load paint. You can keep it transparent. I keep it transparent, and I choose to mix with the colors that are in my painting or in my image to begin with. If you start painting and all of a sudden you color pick like this ugly orangey color, and this turns a color, you are now going to start mixing with that brown color into it, which makes, if you're on that color, it's going to make mud. I have people that have taken me class and they'll say to me, why am I painting with red? I don't know why I'm mixing with red. So you can paint like that. I choose not to, just to keep these simplified. So what I typically do is I click on it, I clean the brush so it's transparent, and then I clean the brush and I clean the brush and I turn off the paint mixing. It's not painting, it's mixing with color, and keep it transparent. So make sure that your settings look like that right here. Keep it transparent. The other two things that you have to, or three things you have to pay attention to this panel is the wetness. So your wetness is, if you have it on 0 or 3%, you can alter this any way you want it. If it's on 3%, it's going to mix the paint that you have down in your image just a little bit. If you have it on 100%, it's going to mix all over the place. So this is your way of controlling. I will tell you that if you're painting skin, I would suggest the wetness be around 3%. If you're painting a background and you just want to mush things up really, really quick, put the wetness all the way up to 100%. Okay, but for general, I don't know, 60-ish%. But you can alter. You'll know if you're controlling it. If you're not controlling your mixer brush and what you're painting, then lower the wetness. It will also depend on the brush you're on and the size of the brush. So alter the size of your brush in conjunction with the wetness and find a happy medium. Okay. Yeah. Some of them are available. I will put some of these in my group. Yes, I'll post some of these in my group so you can look at them. Some of them are already there. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes, I will. Here, let me enlarge it a little bit, Chris. How about that? There we go. Yeah, how about we enlarge it a little bit? There we go. How's that? Better? Way better. Okay. So the wetness will alter. So some of your brushes, they will, if the wetness is up really high, they'll move really quickly. Some of them will move slowly. So it works in conjunction with which brush. Whoa, way too big. How do I get you? Wait. Oh, that's frightful. Okay, wait. Glad that wasn't my face. Okay. Okay. So it works in conjunction with whatever brush that you have picked out as well. Okay. The other two things on here that you really kind of pay attention to is sample all layers. You can check it or non-check it. I will tell you, if it's checked, sample all layers, it will lag your computer, especially if you have a lot of layers. And I have started working with lots and lots of layers. When I do a painting, like if I paint an eye, the iris is one layer, the pupil is one layer, the catch light is another layer, the eyelashes are another layer. That because I do it that way so I can alter it. But if you sample all layers, you're going to be picking up everything underneath. So I usually keep sample all layers off and just make sure that I'm on the right layer. The other thing you need to pay attention to is this little bullseye right here, which is your pen pressure. And your pen pressure will put a point on your, why can I not move that? Maybe the next slide will let me do that. Okay, hold on. Why can I not? Oh, for crying out loud, Chris. There it is. I should have had a drink while we had all those tech problems. I'm like, what is going on now? Okay. Oh my God. See, this is why I made squirrel brushes up as a joke, but because that's my spirit animal. Who knew that they would actually work? So, all right. So if you are on, if you're on your brush, okay, so backtrack here. So some brushes will have a natural point. Like I will go to your basic rounds you can see. So when you look at this one, this soft round brush right here does not have a point on it. So if you start painting with this, see how, oh, that's an ugly color, but if you start painting with this, it's kind of a flat end. If you turn on the point, it all of a sudden has like a point to it. So I see this when people send me their images to critique for print comp. I see this a lot, and it's no one's hair grows at a blunt end. That's like a little kid that went to town with a pair of scissors with their on their bangs. Always have this sample all layers. Well, that's my slide. That's my slide, but right up here. Have that checked so you put a point on it if you are painting hair, eyelashes, or any detail. Take it off if you're painting or mixing up a background. Okay, so pay attention to this little bullseye guy up here. All right, so I know there's a lot of information really quick. So here are some tips. Sample all layers will lag your computer. We just talked about that. Turn the pen pressure on for hair, turn it off for backgrounds, and make sure that your paint well is transparent to start with, and then you can play with adding paint in once you get a little bit better. Okay, the other tool that I use a lot is the smudge brush. Now your smudge brush is pretty much, let's see if we can get this somewhere in the middle. I can't go somewhere in the middle, of course not. Smudge brush is similar to the mixer brush, does the same thing, but the properties at the top, and it looks like the little finger right here, and it smudges and smears. You'll notice that it still has the pen pressure, little pen pressure bullseye up here. It still has sample all layers, but it doesn't have the wetness anymore. It only has strength. So the strength is going to change. So if you have the strength at 100% and you have, let's just go to a basic soft round here just to show you what it does. If you have the strength at 100%, let's be on a slide that we can see. Let's be on, yeah, we're not smudging anything because there's nothing there to smudge. Okay, so if you're at 100%, you can see that it's going to come out really fast and you're smudging really quick. So you're going to know if you get out of control, like you can mix these together and it doesn't mix, it's just going to smudge your edge out. If you put it, hold on. If you put it on, I keep getting mixed up with my with my slides here. If you put the strength at 11%, you're going to notice that it's not doing a whole lot. I can see it. If I keep going over and over and over and over and over, I can still see it. So find your happy medium, and that will also correlate with the brush size that you have. Okay, so play around with the strength. If you can't see it, bring the strength all the way up and say, oh yeah, it's working. Okay, so that's usually the problem. Keep it around 50% to kind of start, and that's a good happy medium to have nice, fluffy, soft edges. Okay, so that's what the smudge tool does. All right, that's a lot of information. Those are all your tools. They're all on here. Go back and read them, and if you have a problem with it, any of it, message me, and I'll talk you through it. So let's put this all together and paint something. So I am going to show you, I'm going to show you how an image started and where it ended up. So these guys I took at a winery in Texas, and I saw them, and I went to the winery because I knew they had ostriches. I didn't expect them to be this mangy, but they were. But I photographed all these ostriches as I did my wine tasting, and I knew that I could turn them into these fabulous birds right here. So this was a GF finalist a few years ago, Meet the Flockers. So that's how they started. But I love humor, obviously the way this program started. Animation, I love giving crazy animals personality and realistic eyes. It just makes me happy. So that's what I did with these guys. So let's start. How are we doing on time? We're still doing okay. Good. All right, good. So I can show you actually some real painting. So when I first started these guys, I have to say, when I first started these guys, I was not working on layers. I was working on one layer, which made it really difficult because I was trying to mix this background up. I knew how to drop things into the layer, but I didn't know how to work with different layers. So I kind of smudged around these guys a couple of times. I did it again. Then I added some flowers back here to try to fix it a little bit. Wasn't looking so good still. I smudged them a little bit more. Then I decided I was going to maybe go upward and make it look like grass. Still wasn't where I wanted to be, but the birds are getting fluffier because I love painting hair and fur. I did it again, smudged it some more. Then I said, that's not working. How about just a textured background? Still wasn't working for me. Then I finally decided I was going to totally blur out the background and then just paint some grasses behind the birds. So that is pretty much how they ended up like that. So I'm showing you that just so you know that you can start with not a great image and you can manipulate it and put the light and the shadow anywhere you want on it, because you can notice that the light's coming from this direction over here. So this whole side of them is lit. This side is the shadow. You can paint that in if it wasn't there, because they're way overexposed here in the originals. So, all right, let me show you how we did it now. So in the essence of time, I'm going to start with just a backdrop. And this backdrop was just made actually from the image. And all I did is I took my handy dandy, you can do this with a soft round, you can do it with pretty much anything. I did it with my handy dandy squirrel brush and I just smudged it and mixed it so it was nice and soft. So that's the first thing that I did. And then the next thing that I did, and that's now my computer's lagging because I did that, the spinning wheel of death. Oh my gosh, Chris, can anything else go wrong? All right. There's plenty of time for something else to go wrong. Okay. All right. So then I cut them out. I selected them, and the quick selection tool is what I use to select them and then just pop them on. Does a really good job for painting, and it doesn't have to be precise. So I did that. The next thing I do is once they're selected and they're kind of put into a position that I want them to be, I make a duplicate layer of that twice, and I'll show you why. There's a little feature in Photoshop, and it's called the oil paint filter. Don't rely on this. Nothing's going to get you a 79 quicker than the oil paint filter. But I use it as a sort of as a base so that everything has a little bit of a sort of painterly feel to it. So you know, in case you miss something that looks totally photographic. So to get to it, you go to the filter, and the last one that you use, if you use the same one all the time, will be at the top. It'll always be there. So you go to filter, you go down to stylize, because it'd make too much sense to list it here. It's hidden under stylize. Then you go over to the fly out, and then you go down to oil paint. You're going to click on that, and then this little panel is going to pop up. Now, the reason why I make 2 copies is because I don't fret too much about this, because like I said, I am just adding it, putting a touch on there. So if you want numbers, I don't know, set them at all the way 4 down. I think I originally, you can also see up here what it's doing. If I kind of go to his feathers, I can't enlarge the screen, sorry, but you can see in this little preview box here what it's doing. Actually, you can see it on the birds. You can see, look at their eye. Can you see how that's just, so you can, hold on, let me see. Hold on. Yeah. So anyway, you can, if once you do this, you can zoom into your image and see what it's doing and play with these sliders so it looks exactly how you want. I don't tend to do it that way. I kind of just slide them up. The most important thing with this filter is to turn off the lighting, because when you turn the lighting on, everything has sort of a moire kind of feel. Tomorrow when you look at this, or tonight if you're still up, play with this and turn the lighting on and off to see what it does. And then once it's set, I hit OK. And now you'll be able to see what it, because I'll be able to zoom in. I couldn't zoom in when I was in that panel. So you can see what the oil paint filter did. Okay. So sometimes it does a great job on hair. Someone in the last program that I did said that the Neuro filters does something like that. It's basically an action. And actually there's a couple of actions to do hair smoothing. It's basically the oil paint filter. So remember I said, I don't really care where it's set, because what I do is I will, once it's on, okay, so right now I'm on the duplicated layer, which is the oil paint layer. I am going to take it off his eyes. I usually take it off nostrils. I take it off jewelry, rings, necklaces, nails, fingers, toes. You don't want web feet. Anything that has zippers, anything that has detail, you want to take it off of there. You can put a mask on there if you want. I just tend to erase it off because I've done this so often now, and I know exactly where it needs to come off and where it doesn't, that I just sort of just use the eraser and erase it off. When you do that, however, this is what's going to happen to you. You're putting nice holes in your painting. So if I turned off this background, well, you're going to see all my other layers beneath it, but you no longer have the image there. You're going to have whatever is behind it showing up. So once you have erased it off, so let me put it back. I usually take my duplicated oil paint filter, and I also just take the opacity down, because I just want it touching it. I don't want it, if you look at his neck right here, I don't want it so obliviated that I can't see any detail, because then I can't put the detail where I want it to be. So I lowered it down just so it has a little bit of a, can you see that it has a tiny bit of a touch? That's all. That's all I'm trying to do with it at this point. so that every part of my painting has some sort of painting on it, so it's not photographic anymore. Once I do that, I take those two layers and I merge them. Okay, so now I have a duplicated layer, but his eyes are good. And now if you look at it, there's no hole left there. So that's why I do it that way, so there's no hole. There are some fantastic artists out there that that I really admire, and what they do, instead of doing it that way, they will do a blank layer on top and start painting on that, and then just keep turning off the image to see if they've hit everything. That, to me, I like to see when I'm forever on the wrong layer. So adding a blank layer makes it confusing for me at this stage. So I choose to paint on the image, but I duplicate it so that I have the original, and then I have one that I'm working on. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? If it doesn't, put it in your chat now and I'll answer it right away. All right. We're following? Yay. Okay. Okay. And if you take one of my classes, I spend, I don't know, 3-4 hours, whatever, in a class, and I go through this step by step and make sure you get it. And I go over it much slower, but in an hour, we got a lot to cover. Okay. lot of content in a small amount of time. Okay, so the next thing that you do is when you select something, I see this all the time with people's images that they send to me to critique. Whoops, where'd you go? Chris and I took the judges workshop class together. So I have been doing personal critiques to people. I see this all the time. See this, see this. So whatever you selected it from, whether it be a black background, a white background, a green background, whatever color paper you're on, I see this edge all the time. So I'm going to share with you a quick way of getting rid of that. Now, yes, you're going to paint this and you're going to mix it out. But if this is a green background, say this, you extracted it off a really bright green grassy area, you're going to have a green haze here. So this is a trick to get rid of it. There's a little button up here that's called lock. There's two locks up here. This one is a transparent lock. So it's the transparent lock. When you click that, it will lock your layer. To get rid of this edge, what I do is I go to my smudge brush and I just go to a soft round. I'm going to keep it bigger. I'm going to keep it bigger so you can see it. And then all I do is I take it and I just smudge out whatever it is I just selected. And you can see that I am getting rid of that dark black line, white line, green line, whatever kind of line it is. If I unlock it and I smudge it, this is what happens. So the locking is going to just lock the layer. This will only work if you have selected it out and you've got them on a layer by themselves. But that's a great little tip to get rid of that haloing that I see constantly. I just did this with a friend of mine who's painting a teacup, and there was a black line around it. And we locked the layer. It got rid of it so easily. But that's just the first step. And then you're going to come back and you're going to start mixing this. But you got rid of that blackness. So when you start smudging it, you're not going to be smudging in the edge that you don't want. Okay, so the lock layer thing works great. Okay, so here's another example of it. I have a humorous side, and I love anything animated, and I have a dark side where I like creepy and spooky. So this little mouse, I just selected him and I put him on. But see how he's got the white line? Watch. Lock the layer. Go back over to your smudge. Looks like the little finger. And then just run this down and pull out that edge. So now you're not going to get this white halo-y kind of fringe going on him. Okay, so it is a great way of getting rid of those edges. You can also lock the layer and do other things to it. You can. So when you lock the layer, it means nothing is spilling over onto the background. You are just like, if you can see my layers palette, this little mouse or rat is on its own separate layer here. You can also go to your blend tools and play around with that. So if you can go to the color mode, for example, and say I wanted to paint this, I wanted to add more of this brown tone that's in my color palette over here. Or I could make him, let's make him blue. I could just color him blue if I wanted. That, see how I'm painting this, and this, I can tell that this has the point because when I touch down, it has like a pinpoint. It's because this guy's on. So when you're doing something like that, make sure your pen pressure is off and you're going to get a nice soft wash. If I unlock it, it's going onto my background. So that's another great way if you're trying to change the color of something. And the friend of mine I was helping wanted to change the color of the teacup. She goes, I don't want it white. How do I change it? And so that's what we did. So that's locking your layer. It works marvelous. Okay, so let's go back to, well, you can keep it locked. Yeah, because if you keep it locked, you're not going to be able to smudge out anything. Like watch, if I, okay, so let's go back to the spot that I locked. If you lock it, wait, hold on. If I lock it and I pull out this black right here, well, troubleshooting. Are you on the right layer? No, I'm not. Exactly. Are you on the right layer? Are you in the right mode? Those are your color shooting, your color things. And now I am on the paintbrush. Are you on the right brush? Go to your smudge and then smudge it out. So I'm not smudging, I'm just smudging it out. So if I keep it locked, I'm not going to be able to paint and smudge it out. So yes, I would unlock it at that point, Chris. And then this is where I start painting. So I have been using the smudge brush a lot to do this. And I will now just come out and just, in doing that, you're really just getting rid of the halo because you're going to come and do this anyway. So remember I said that when you're using the brush and the strength with the smudge tool, it's on 53% and it's moving, but it's not moving quickly. I'm going to up it a little bit and make it go just a little bit easier. Okay, so if it's going too fast for you, bring it down. And I am purposely using a soft round because you guys all have that. And if you want to start playing, you can start playing with this and use the soft round. I will also, after I've subtracted, I will get rid of that line if I need to. But if there's a big smudge like this, what I'll do is I will just go like this, and I'm just going to. What am I on here? And why am I not erasing? That's why I'm not erasing. Yes, Chris. Chris, I'm glad you pay attention. You did this in Washington. You paid attention for me. That's good. So I will sometimes just do this because I know that I'm going to fluff them out instead of doing that smudge on something like this. Like I don't want all of this darkness to smudge out because I'm going to wing him out as much as I can wing him out. So you can do that around your edges too. You're going to do that on, on an animal. You're not going to do that on a chair or, an object. You're not going to do that. But something that you're going to really fluff out, you could just do that as well. So the top of this, I'm just going to erase that. Okay, so that's what I do. 15? Oh boy. Okay. I'm moving. Okay. So let's go. So the smudge, I will get the smudge. And this is just the soft round, one round brush. There are brushes like this. This is a hairbrush. And basically it's the soft round made into dots. And I made a brush that has multiple dots because then it's gonna double your time. It's just gonna move quicker because you've got more dot. If I enlarge the brush a little bit, remember I said it's a yin and a yang, you got to find your happy spot. And it's just going to go quicker. And you're really going to smudge out and fluff out those edges so he looks great. And same thing with this, you're going to smudge down, follow the direction of the whatever it is you're painting. It's just like painting. You're going to paint in the direction of the wall, the direction of the wood. You're going to cut in the direction of the meat. You're not going to go up and down like this. You're going to go out. So you're going to take your pen, and yes, using a pen is going to make your life a whole lot easier. I don't know how you can do this with a mouse, but anyway. And so it has a point. It has a point at the end, notice, because I have the pen pressure pressed. Okay, so that is what I'm going to do all around, and I'm going to fluff out and I'm going to blend all of his feathers so they're nice and soft and fluffy. Now, remember I said that you have blend mode. So that is, and you can use the mixer too. I was just using the smudge, but if you go to the mixer brush, the same thing. This brush that I made will go into, I can use it as a smudge, a mixer, or a brush. That's what I like about it. So you can smudge in the inside use your A lot of people use the mixer. I use the mixer or the smudge, just because if I'm on it and I'm smudging out the edges, I'll just continue on the interior. All right, so when I switch to the brush, this is really blown out. It doesn't bother me at all. So all you're going to do is you're going to color pick. So in this case, I color pick sort of you can color pick from wherever you want to color pick. So say you pick that brown color, and you're going to go to a brush. Again, you could use a soft round, and I'm on normal mode. 74% is way too high, way too dark. So you could either lower the color or you can lower the opacity, whichever way you want to do it. Make sure you have a point on there, and then just start adding little, and this is really sloppy and quick, you guys. You do not have to be precise at this, because right now all I'm doing is adding color and texture in there to blend it a little bit. And then I'm going to come back with my mixer brush and I'm going to blend it in. And you're going to do this over and over. So you have, I got to tell you, it's very relaxing. I got to tell you, I started this when my mother was being moved into assisted living, and I was like stressed to the max a couple of years ago. And I'd come home and I do this, and like, because you just go. This is the easiest, most fun, relaxing thing to do. So what I suggest to you guys, just find an image and play and scribble, and you're gonna write your name with a brush, and you're gonna get better and better. So you're gonna build up that darkness. You could also go into the screen mode, color pick that it's already light, but I'm going to show you this just to show you what it does. And if I bring the screen mode up to 100%, can you see that it's now adding highlights in there a little bit? So the screen modes are going to give you highlights. I'm making it more extreme over here so you can see it. If I bring it back down to the multiply mode, now I can add some of the brown back in there. So what you're doing is you're putting dimension that wasn't there. So if you can see the stripe, yeah, and it goes quick. So you have a duplicate layer so you can go back and see. And on the same side over here, you want to enhance the shadow over here. So you're going to pick this color over here, and then you're going to go up to multiply, and you're going to, that's way too dark. When you're on multiply, I typically don't go above, I don't know, 10%, because that's way too dark. You don't want that. You want it, and that's way too light. So you can up your opacity or up the color and add in some shadow, right? And then go back to your mixer or your smudge, and then just sort of blend it a little bit. And this is the system that I do. I will do this once, I'll do it again, and I'll keep doing it. The more layers you have, the better it is going to look. So we only have a couple of minutes, but I'm going to go into, so that's my first step. I'll blend it all, and then I'm going to go into, where's my Photoshop? Did I lose my, I'm just going to show you this dog really quick. So this dog, he's not my dog. This was someone that took my class, and this is how the dog started. I will show you how this dog started. This dog started on a white background, and I said, ooh, I would first, number one, change the background. And you can see that. See that layer right there? Hold on. Where did it go? I'll go back to it. But that layer was, I can't find it now. That was like an overpaint layer that I'm going to show you now. So see, when I change it to the dark, you've got this white halo from the white background. So lock the layer, smudge it out, get rid of it. Okay, so I just went over that with you. So right there, if I turn that off, see these paint strokes right here? These are paint strokes that I call overpainting. So once you have smudged it, I'll go back in and add detail, and add all of these little little marks in there for the to add more detail to him. So so that's what I first did to him. I painted him a little bit. This is something turned on. These are turned on up here. These are my detail layers. What I first did is I went into the color mode, and this is an old dog. You might not want to do this if this is somebody else's dog, but if it's for competition and you want to make more color balance and have color harmony, all I did was color pick on, and then I brushed some of the same color brown on his nose. And then I went to my mixer, same thing that I just did with the ostrich. I just blended and mixed him out. Okay, this is my detail. So here, there's another layer of him here. Yeah, so because if you smudge, and I see this all the time, you just smudge, you flatten it. So you have to go back and add in the detail. So this is not even half of what I would do to this dog. So then I put it. Yes, I'm going to show you that right now. And then I added some more right there. So you can do this either on the dog. In this case, I'm doing it on a blank layer. Do it whichever way is more comfortable. I'm showing you both ways so you can decide. So to add the detail, I go to the brush mode, just the brush. I do the same thing. I'm going to color pick the brightest part right there. And if it's not bright enough, you can make it a little bit brighter. I'm going to make it brighter just so you can see it. I'm not going to put it on multiply. I'm going to put it on screen because right now what I want to do is I want to add highlight. I keep my brush as small as I can make it and still be able to see it. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger just so you guys can see it. And that's see, when I made it bigger, the opacity, I didn't need to be as high. So then what I do is I go over and I just touch the areas that are already highlighted on this dog. Okay, that color is a little bit too, let's kind of warm him up a little bit, that color. So, and now I can't see it, so I'm going to up it a little bit. So I'm just going to add just little bits. And again, the light's coming this way, so you need to add in more light on this side of the dog than on this side of the dog. Do it on his little muzzle. Now it's too dark. Let me bring it up a little bit. I'm going to purposely make it brighter so you guys can see. So you're going to come in, yeah, so you can see it now. Because sometimes you do this, you can't see what they're doing and where they're painting. So you're going to come over these pieces. And you, by the way, would do the same exact thing if you're painting a dress with fabric. You would paint these highlights on the folds of the dress. So I come in and also if you're painting a person, make sure you do both sides of their face at the same time, because if you don't, you're never going to be able to duplicate it the next day. So just kind of add in little wisps. So I'll do that, and then I will go to my multiply. And I might make this as a little bit darker. I'm going to make it darker just so you can see it. And I'm going to come next to it and add in some darker. So these are darker low lights for those of us who get our hair highlighted and low lighted. And you just add that in. So see how you're just adding in texture. You're not going to leave it like that, of course. Then you're going to go back to your mixer. Don't obliviate it. So bring your wetness down a little bit, and now you're just going to blend over it. So it's seamless. And I will do this. Oh my gosh. Is the painting ever really done? It's not, because I will do this and then I'll do it again, and then I'll do it again, and then I'll talk on the phone. And as I'm talking on the phone, I'm doing this. I have a friend that always calls me with things that are going on in her life. And I'm like, yep, do this. Yeah, do this. And the whole time I'm painting like this. So that's what I call over painting. So, and it makes a huge, it adds life to to your image. That's a little bit white. I probably would make it a little bit more caramely colored, but in the essence of a demo. So I also added a patch to this dog for humor. So you can see this dog, this, you can group your layers. So this is, I made this, this folder red. If I open it, you're going to see in here that one is the color mode. One is the shadow. If I turn these all off, that's the original image. I locked the layer first. That's the highlight. Then I added the color on top of it. I should probably put them in order. I added a brown tone for color harmony. Then I added a shadow underneath the patch so you can see. So when you add a shadow, that's why it's there. The shadow's going to be underneath. If I go like this, edit, free transform, see there's the shadow. Just take it, make a duplicate copy, darken it however you want in layers and adjustment layers, however you want to do it, fill it with black, whatever you want to do, and then just slide it, because if your light's coming this way, you're going to have a little bit of a shadow right there. And then you can adjust, you can blur it a little bit and then adjust the opacity of it. But the shadow makes it look like it belongs there. Eyes are a class in itself. I'm not even going to get into eyes. That's just not enough to yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. Shoot. Okay. The brushes? Is you yes, you can go to this little, I believe it's this gear. Yeah, you can go to this little gear and then just click how you want it. If you just want the name, if you want the brush tip and you want the stroke, check off what you want. So if I check off, yeah, if you see how that just switched and it's gone. So the gear will do everything. Turn it back on. Okay, number 2. Yes, you need to. Doing all these highlights and shadows is all with your brush tool with multiply. So the two I use the most frequently are multiply and screen. So this section right here. So screen and screen I usually use at usually around 20%ish. And multiply, I usually will use at a lower, because you don't want it to be a black line. You just want to add darkness. And you can also alter it by the color as well. So try those out. If you're painting birds, try color dodge. I've been painting birds. I love painting birds. And it adds an iridescent. It's just a sharper, like if I can show you this real quick. I don't know if I can show you this real quick. But if I use color dodge, it's brighter. Go ahead. Go ahead, Chris. This one I made, but I have so many. So I will tell you this. I don't think Kyle has any like that. I have a few different ones that I've made, just experimenting. You can Google how to make your own brush, and it's just a series of black dots on a white canvas, and then render as a brush. Google brushes, free brushes. There is a site that I found, Google free hair brushes, and I guarantee you something will pop up. I usually give them away when I teach a class, so you are all on the same page. There is a site where I found, so the 3 that I use is some sort of hairbrush, the soft round, and I use a skin brush. And I did find a site, if I did find a site that had free skin brushes that I downloaded, and if I could find it, shoot me the net. Here it is. It's by Keep Waiting. Right here, see it says, I just Googled skin brushes and put free skin brushes, because there's so many people out there giving brushes away. You can buy them. Just Google Keep Waiting, and this brush right here has like an open weave to it. So it's great at painting skin. Just make sure that the wetness is like 3%. Did that answer? Yep. Good. You can. It's very difficult to do it that way. It's really, really hard because I'll tell you that you're not going to be able to get the pen pressure, and you're not going to be able. I don't know if you can still see my face somewhere on there. I hope not, but if you can, if you look at my pen in my hand, when I paint and I do hair, I take the pen and then I lift it off, and that's what gives it that flickiness at the end, and also the pen pressure will give the point. So you can. It's going to be really hard. I will tell you that Wacom, I use the small tablet. I just bought a new one because my other one was worn out, and I think it was around 200. Well worth it to get it. And you don't have to get the art pen. I have both, and it depends which one I pick up. I don't really know which one I pick up half the time, but they both work equally as well to me. So what else? I have been painting for 4.5 years. So not very long. I took a class with Marian Talamo about 5 years ago, maybe. Yeah, about 5 years ago. And then the following year, but it was Corel. Corel I found very difficult because of tracing paper, and you had to keep bringing it back and forth into Photoshop. And then I took Sandra Pierce, a week with Sandra Pierce. And then the stars aligned, and I just took off. And 5 years later, I had 5 GIA nominations. So not very long, I have to tell you. That the ostrich one that I just showed you, that was 3 years ago. So it goes quick if you practice. So, and if you love it like I do. I have classes. Click that link. I think it's still in here, you guys, if I can find it. On my contact page, if you click this, that will bring you to my page, and I post all my classes. I will be doing another class, I think sometime in June. I'm planning for it. I've done in person and Zoom. And I did recently, I just did one that was in person and Zoom at the same time, which worked out okay, I have to say. I was a little nervous about that, but it worked out okay. So you can do that. This page, I intend to have video on it. That's my goal, but right now it just has little tips and tricks and what types of brushes and things to use. So I can see everybody's doing that. Go, Chris. What? Yeah. Oh man, I don't know. Can I do that? Can I do you're asking a lot, Chris. Okay, there we go. You there? That's what you're looking for? Good. Am I entered? It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I wouldn't accept it. It's okay. Lauren, not more technical problems. Yeah, I love your wheel. I've always loved I've watched it, I'm like, "It's so fun." Yay. Thank you. So sorry for all the technical, but thank you for having me. Thank you, ACI, for having me. Um, I just love what I do. Yeah. So you will. And if you have any questions, just message me and I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have. Talk you through it. But practice, practice. That's all it takes. All right. Thank you, Chris.